Previously on ALC201.
Hi everyone, I hope things are going well. Just a really brief intro here from me, partly because Tiffany just told me she's completely and utterly sick of me holding her in the middle of the night for these videos. I hope that those people who tweet out there that the best part about these videos is my dog, because if you're not enjoying it, she's not either. But the main reason I'm going to keep this really short is because I've already provided on Cloud Deakin quite a long recording of an amazing guest lecture we had from Dr. Deb Waterhouse-Watson last year on sexting and trial by social media, the topic for this week. So please do make sure you watch that and take some notes. It's absolutely fundamental. Treat it like another lecture. It's on YouTube, but it's not a YouTube video in the sense of the context of this unit. It was an amazing talk that we were able to get, and Deb's off at Macquarie University in Sydney now, but really important that you watch that. Just a quick few notes from me about the assignment, and I'll move on in this video to some advice I gave last year that's still relevant for the assignment as well. Please do make a start really early, as if you haven't already, you are probably already behind. With the Module 1 exercise, over a third of the over 200 students in the unit submitted late and lost marks for lateness. And it really only takes 2 days to lose marks that are equivalent to a whole grade. You could go from a 70 down to a 60. So make sure that you do start early. Now the other thing that I want to say is, coming from a few questions I'm getting by email and Cloud Deakin, is focus. Don't try and do too much. A 5-minute video is not much at all. I'm probably going to speak for almost 5 minutes here, and you'll get over it. So 5 minutes is not much to get through. Don't try and do an entire topic. Don't even try to do an entire subtopic of a topic. Don't try and do too much. It's so crucial. Now, you want to think of what problem, and I don't mean problem in the conventional sense. You've got to have a problem that you're addressing. And think of a problem in the form of a question. What question can you analyse and make an argument about in relation to one of the topics? It's a little bit different from when you get the very clearly, concisely worded essay topic. That's not really how the media and cultural industries work. You often have to find your research problem, your question. So try and think of a question. Now I'm using the word question a bit because you've actually got a range of questions provided in the study notes documents, and that would be really useful to have a look at those. But remember that those study notes questions are not designed to be examples for the assignment. They weren't designed that way, but they might actually provide some starting off ideas. They might be too broad for the assignment, so you could think, okay, what's a similar question that I could address in relation to the topic that I'm interested in? And then you go from there. You start to script and design and plan for your video. Now there's lots of advice coming up on the video, so I'll leave it there. But I just wanted to point out in advance of next week, I know that you're probably really busy with an amazing amount of work inside and outside uni, so I know you've got a lot of work on, but if you get a chance, I would highly recommend that you go along to a museum. Not specifying anyone in particular, there are lots of fantastic museums around Melbourne, and for those interstate students, you might be able to find somewhere close to you as well. But we're looking at digital media in museums. And you've got in Melbourne, for example, the Melbourne Museum, the Jewish Holocaust Centre, and last week, a few weeks ago, I went to the Immigration Museum, which I might be able to bring some of the footage and images in to next week's meLecture for that. I'll give a lot of video content examples for those who don't get to a museum, but there's no replacement, there's no substitution for actually getting to go to one and experiencing the interactives that have been installed and integrated into a traditional museum space. But anyway, that's enough from me. Have a good week. Here's Adam. And to give some more advice for the Module 2 exercise that's coming up very, very soon, I did something a little bit different today. I took the camcorder and the tripod along to one of my seminars, and I sat down in front of the camera and I started to talk about the exercise, and a number of students were sitting around and they asked some questions to contribute. So let's have a look. Hi everyone, I'm talking to you from an ALC201 seminar on Monday afternoon at about 1:30 to 2 p.m. I'm joined here by a number of students, and what I thought I'd do for the benefit of those students who don't always get to seminars, particularly those off-campus students, and some of whom are overseas studying, which is fantastic, is have a little bit of an open discussion about the assignment. I was asked something on Deakin recently about what kind of options, and I started to list the options, some of which could be a news report that you can make, or a mini mockumentary. Some students will do that. Some students will do a more conventional presentation, perhaps partly speaking to webcam, combining other footage. Some students, you don't necessarily have to be on camera. You can screen capture a slideshow or a prezi, different things, infographics or images, and have a narrative, a voiceover for that, explaining what your argument and analysis is. And that's the key. You need to have an argument and analysis. You can have a role play, sure, keep it brief. Don't just do a 5-minute role play that's all creative and fun. You actually want to deconstruct that and critique it, that kind of thing. So, with that being said, I will open it up to anyone who has any questions that may have raised at all.
So, would you maybe suggest, say for example, if we were to do a topic on this week, so it's like from sexting to trial by social media. You said don't cover a whole topic, so you'd only pick, say, sexting or trial by social media, and you maybe pick maybe one or two of the scholarly sources that you put in the reading to help us out.
Yeah. And you want to look, if you do that topic in particular, I haven't given as many scholarly sources because there's so many great conversation articles. So sure, you can use those kinds of things. Technically they're not peer reviewed, even though they're written by scholars, but certainly use them. And there's a bit of literature out there. Deb's guest lecture will be absolutely essential, and it'll give you a few more sources as well, I imagine, for that. But you're absolutely right, don't try and do the whole topic. Try and do sexting and trial by social media, and how surveillance is intersecting with that, and the police, the use of digital media by police. A really important point I make: if you're going to choose a case study, be very careful about what case study you choose. What we'll talk about in seminars partly today is that, and I'm facing the camera here, you can see that because I'm making an important key message here. Part of the rape cases that we have, the sexual assault cases, and there's some pretty dark and disturbing things that happen, is that when things go out on social media, like YouTube videos, regarding these victims, whether they're pictured or not, it's actually contributing to a widespread problematic pervasiveness of material about those cases. So the victim is living with this material on an ongoing basis. So you can think hypothetical scenario for that kind of case if you want to do that. But certainly keep it specific. 5 minutes. I've already talked for probably 3 minutes, 4 minutes for this little video, so you need to keep it specific. Any other questions?
Which weeks is Module 2? Is it 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yes, they're all on. I just fixed up one of the study notes documents, so there's 4 different topics, I believe. Surveillance used to be part of Module 1, which was a little bit of an error. I brought surveillance in. We've got the Sexting up new media. We've got this week's topic on new media and the law and museums. They're your Module 2 topics.
I don't have a question, but I've got something that other people might find useful or not. I did a 5-minute movie for a subject last semester, and through investigation I worked out that narrating a 5-minute movie, you're looking at about 350, 400 words, unless you're going to talk really fast.
Interesting, yeah. And that's really key. You can actually, that's why when someone said to me, should I use voiceover? You can actually make a really innovative use of combining visuals and audio, but you don't want a transcript on screen. You don't want huge quotes while you're talking over it with different things, or even just huge amounts of text. Watch your video after you've done it, see if it's manageable, or get someone else to watch it and say, do you get all the things that I'm saying? Because I have seen people go very fast, like I can do, and the great thing is I've heard students tell me they've watched meLectures more than once so that they get the key messages. Thank you if you're doing that. Thank you if you're watching them once. But that's a really key thing too, yeah, absolutely. Keep it, if you're going to talk the entire time as well.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a little bit of intro music, perhaps got some Creative Commons stuff, and make sure, I want to make this really, really clear, talking to the camera lens again, please read the instructions more than once. read the instructions about your use of material and what is available to you very carefully. We've marked the Module 1 exercise. We saw things that did not necessarily gel with the instructions in this kind of area, and it will be even more crucial for the next assignment. You are putting a video out there online, and I'm trying to facilitate learning about creative uses of your own media or finding out what Creative Commons is. And don't feel bad if you don't know what it is, because the vast majority have had 2 students probably in 2 years who'd ever heard of it. So thank you to the students in that seminar who were happy to set aside a little class time for all of you. It's really showing what I was talking about last week, the participatory nature of digital media and the really good things that it can facilitate. But while on the subject of the Module 2 exercise, one other really important point that I'd like to make is to think of the video as the main primary part of your assignment. The written critical reflection that you're to include in your blog as well as the embedded video is important, but the written component is a supplementary component that explains the thinking and processes behind your video. It needs to cover the points that I list in the instructions. The written reflection is not an essay. Your argument and analysis needs to be evident in your video, even if you do briefly restate your argument in the written part of your blog. In short, don't think of the video and written component as doing the same thing. They need to complement each other and not repeat the same content. By no means should your written reflection be something like a transcript of your video. And I hope this has relieved at least some of the anxiety felt by many students in this unit who were worried about the very notion of being involved in filmmaking. I completely understand that this can be a scary experience, and particularly if it's a first experience. I myself had no idea how these meLectures would turn out, and more importantly, how they'd be received when I started doing them last year. Everyone has their learning process, and that process never ends. Give it a go and you will surprise yourself. Now let's go to this week's Movie of the Week. But first, let's go to a commercial break.
Good afternoon and welcome to another Nappy Sand Door Challenge, where we put our product to the test through your clothing.
Actually, no, that's way too embarrassing. I still remember the days from year 10 through to year 12 in high school when my brother and I would avoid giving oral presentations for assessment by making very amateur movies. We would carry around the huge camera from the school library on our shoulder and then sit up all night with 2 VCRs, that's video cassette recorders for any young viewers who don't know, and edit some very scrappy footage together. We had a lot of fun doing this, but when I started making digital movies a little over 12 months ago, things had obviously changed immensely. Most of you won't realise how stunning the opportunities are that you have access to these days, particularly when contrasted with what was available 10 years ago. And think about how user-friendly and amazingly inexpensive, if not completely free, things are. And look at the thing that you might be holding right now looking up Facebook, your smartphone. What can you achieve with that alone? Now, let's go to the Movie of the Week. This week's Movie of the Week is a little bit hard to figure out because new media in law is not really a common thing with a lot of movies. And it'd be interesting to think, if we did have social media in some of these films, would Jack Lemmon go home and investigate a case online and get the jury kicked out rather than talking things through with the other 11 angry men? And would Atticus Finch have summarised this stirring, powerful speech in 140 characters or less to put on Twitter? Or would he be too busy thinking about the status update after he won the case? But in the end, this week's Movie of the Week is Wasted on the Young. It's an Australian film from Western Australia. It's such a shame that so few people have seen it. It's an amazing film. It's about sexual assault, tried by social media, and online revenge. There's no adults in the movie, it's just kids and adolescents. Are they alone? That's a question the movie asks. I like to think of Wasted on the Young. It's a bit Donnie Darko-esque. It's a bit dark, it's a bit creepy, it's very, very interesting. Check it out.